Welcome to Elf Center and the first Steampunk elective class. And it's about the kinds of punks that are out there. Yeah, we had punks back in the 70s, into the 80s, and it's still existing today. And it had to do with punk music and punk subculture and all of that. And then it started strolling into literature. First of all, you had cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was really big in the 80s. It was a dystopian future of corporate control divided between the haves and have-nots, an oppressive society, advanced technology and computers, kind of what we're living in today, sort of. It's not as fallen apart as many of the cyberpunk novels of the time really wrote or described, but yeah, we're getting there. And then came steampunk, what many of us, many of you who are watching, many of the people who I, adore and hang out with, live and love. Steampunk is the retro-futuristic neo-Victorian presentation of a world in which steam continued to be predominant in industry and in life. And we've talked about what steampunk is and what it looks like and what it feels like, so I'm not going to belabor that. But did you know that there are probably a dozen other kinds of punk? Some of them are universally known and accepted. Some of them are very regional or very individual. You've got diesel punk, which is kind of like an offshoot of steampunk. It's very World War I, World War II, Art Deco, kind of what you'd see in noir films and pulp novels. It's got that 1930s, 1940s feel to it. The hats are more fedoras and trilbies rather than top hats and carriage caps and poor boys. The bustle's kind of gone away and the pencil skirt has come in. There is a little more technology. It's a little grimier and dirtier, even at the upper levels of society. Think kind of Great Gatsby meets Sky Captain in the world of tomorrow. Though more a little Sky Captain, a little less Gatsby. Then you've got an offshoot of that called Deco-punk. Deco-punk is kind of a shiny, bright diesel punk, where you're going from the Sky Captain a little more to the Great Gatsby. It's a little more high society, a little more top end, a little more let's dance the night away. Following that, and this one I try to wrap my skull around, is atom punk. Atom punk is defined as 1945 to 1965, so it actually gets into the period in which I was thought of, created, and born. Atom punk is kind of mid-century modernism. It's the Cold War all over again. Something that, to be honest, a lot of people didn't enjoy, so recreating it is very interesting. It shows up more prevalently in posters and art than it does really in literature, though there is some out there, and recreation. Then you've got another offshoot, instead of going forward, let's go off to the left, of steampunk called dust punk, which is your Wild Wild West. It's your United States, Midwest to Western geographical area during the steampunk era. It's cowboy hats and cowboy boots and six guns, some of them operated by steam. It's mechanical horses. It's kind of that, and I would recommend watching the Wild Wild West TV series as well as the movie, because then you'll get a real feel for it. There are a lot of other punks. There is stone punk, which is recreating the caveman era. I'm not seeing the allure, pounding rocks together, rubbing branches, or hoping for lightning to start a fire. Yeah, okay. You've got nanopunk and biopunk, which are both kind of offshoots and beyond of atom punk, which is kind of bastardized with cyberpunk, and they sound exactly what they're all about. You've got a kind of red-headed bastard child of steampunk called clockpunk, where things are less about the steam and more about clockwork. Brass and steel and gears and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You've got Elfpunk and Mythpunk, which are, I'm not sure about. I think a lot of them, the punk has to do with the dystopian kind of presentation rather than the utopian. So it's more along the lines of gods and elves and stuff living in a dirtier, nastier world. You've got Dreampunk, fairly new. I still don't have a full understanding of it. You've got Nowpunk. Nowpunk is set now. I live now. I don't see the allure of Nowpunk. You've got even in little individual offshoots like Chempunk, K-H-E-M, which is Egyptian steampunk. Because during the Victorian period, Victorian England was fascinated by Egyptian history and mythology. Mummies were all the rage. Crawling through crypts and pyramids and such was just, you know, the thing to do. You've got people arguing for their whatever punk. You know, I'm going to call it this. Why? Does it really matter that you coin a term, that you create a label? Do you need us all to accept your personal... I don't get it. But regardless, punk, it's a big thing in literature and in the subcultures, and I think it's here to stay. We'll get into what makes things punk and what shares it. And I think some of it is based on the common characteristics of punk, and some of it is just wishful thinking. So where do you stand with your punks? What punk do you enjoy? What makes you a punk? A few little thoughts to kind of wiggle around in your brain. Enjoy.